Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today, Duck Talks number 60. Yes, I know it's been a while, like always. And as usual, I have some topics for you. Now, first of all, I want to talk about the fire prevention equipment and parts aftermath, together with also the Gaijin PR disaster. I'm recording this the day after their Twitch live stream, and so I want then to continue on with the discussion about helicopters, my first impressions on them, then also talk about my new thumbnails and also a upcoming potential collaboration that is in a very nice format if it would work out, and at the end obviously questions from last Duck Talks. So now let's talk about the FPE and parts discussion. Again, I have never seen the community being united like this, and I think this is really great. Now, people, please don't get impatient. It will not change within a day or two. It might be a fight over weeks, months, maybe even a year before there might be any significant change, before Gaijin feels the need to really make a 180-degree turn on this. However, I think as long as we stay polite, as long as we don't get toxic in the community or begin to insult or become impatient, I think there is a good chance for actual success. If we just throw away this chance, I think there will be no such realistic chance coming up anytime soon. And you have to see, you really have to give Gaijin a lot of good arguments for changing this in the first place. So let's do this. Again, continue doing so, be polite, don't get toxic, don't waste this opportunity, please. It's something that I really like to do. Now, the first actual sign of people getting annoyed about this was on the Twitch live stream of War Thunder itself, where we saw Shawn, and I don't usually watch Twitch that often, and when it was just a coincidence that I clicked on the notification, and then I just saw him actually, raising his voice and saying, "Oh, fire prevention and parts for free for everybody," and making this funny statement that I'm quite sure everybody of you has seen by now. So I will not show it here on my YouTube video, maybe because it would give anybody the chance to strike my channel, I'm quite sure. But honestly, the funny part was I was actually on stream and I just was shaking my head about this nonsense he said about, like, what's the purpose of, playing the game if not for this? And then he was highly exaggerating, let's give an Abrams and a T-80 for free to everybody. And then the two guys were just laughing in a, excuse me, but it was a really stupid way. And, you could make a rant video about this and you just can, throw your hate at this. But you also have to see this is some sort of provocation. And if you fall for this, again, this is wasting the chance. This is why I'm talking about this. And he also was he was not aware of what he was actually talking about, while he was playing with practically a press account with a lot of Golden Eagles, a lot of Silver Lines, all the top tier tanks and planes and helicopters being fully upgraded, and then going in a custom battle and losing against BT-5s in his Abrams IP. So yeah, and then comments like, this has been in the game for so long as a mechanic. Yeah, that's right. And nobody ever said anything about this, which is a complete and utter nonsense statement. It's a blunt lie, because since the beginning of my YouTube channel, people have posted comments like these under my tank reviews, under my videos in general, and I've seen this on official, news or dev blogs from Gaijin. There was always somebody saying parts and FPE should be free, and it was always highly upvoted. So either it's complete lack of knowledge or insane amounts of ignorance. But ultimately it was not true. And what's the purpose of playing the game if not for this? Well, how about having fun in the game? How admiring the beautiful graphics, enjoying to play your vehicles? For fuck's sake, nobody must have fun playing the game, right, Shawn? So yeah, there is that. I mean, you know, getting everything spaded as a ultimate goal, getting everything in your own hand, unlocking stuff, yeah, that's nice. But playing for parts and fire prevention equipment was never everybody's favorite. That was always disgusting and awful, and nobody ever liked it. Never, ever. And if Shawn must play for his own parts and FPE at a tier 6 or even tier 5 tank, he would know. Or, Dimitri was standing behind him with a loaded gun, don't say anything stupid. It's, I was actually writing in chat, don't shoot yourself in the foot with what you're about to say, just seconds before he was saying this. Then my comment was instantly deleted and I was chat banned for 10 minutes. Instantly, I was not insulting him, I was not on the bandwagon, I was giving him an advice. And my comment was instantly deleted, so well played, Gaijin, on your official War Thunder stream. And so a lot of people can be forgiven if they think that this was an official statement. It wasn't. This guy has nothing to say, except on Thunder Show and things like this, because he narrates those videos. And it's just so funny if you think about the entire discussion, because again, Gaijin is running just straight into a much bigger PR disaster than it already is. So to actually conclude this, there is a German saying which is like, wer nicht mit der Zeit geht, geht mit der Zeit. So it's practically, if you don't change, you will not stand the test of time. And I think this is very important. If you look at other games, hell, in World of Tanks and World of Warships, they have changed game mechanics for the better, and they have also changed a bit their research paths, and they have just made things better, not worse, like War Thunder. And if you even have to compare War Thunder to World of Tanks and give World of Tanks credits for better changes, then there is something wrong. But let's talk about World of Warships, because that's the game that I have played more recently. You see, they have changed in the past something like the smoke firing penalty and the stealth firing mechanics and a lot of other things that were further better. And also they're about to make a massive rework of their carriers, and overall their stock grind is much better than anything within War Thunder. And so you have to give a thumbs up for World of Warships. Yes, it's a nice, fun game at times. You could say, oh, but this overpowered ship and this and that. Yeah, and then you look at War Thunder and you realize, well, oops. So, yeah, there is that. So, overall, I think change is possible. It's down to the will of the development team or their bosses. And again, as I repeated in my recent video, we must work on this. So, that's the ultimate goal, that we keep on fighting, being very polite, always, day after day after day, reminding them that we want this change, that this change is the better thing to do for the game. And there is so much money grab at the hands of Gaijin already. Things that everybody should, I guess, get is a premium account. In my opinion, it's really worth it, because I'm excessive players. But if you play just 1 or 2 games per week, obviously it's not worth it. But also, I am okay with premium vehicles. Although, at high tiers, this is now getting excessive. The packs, the heli packs, the premium tank packs for $60 and all those things, they're getting really, really expensive. And so, Gaijin must make a shit ton of money. And if you look at the server stability, if you look at some game mechanics that don't work, some balancing issues, I think the overall purpose is to have fun in the game, and there are so many things standing in our way. And we as a community have endured this for years now. And the only thing that really keeps the game alive is not the new stuff, the new vehicles. That's not the case. What keeps the game alive from the player base's perspective is the hope for change, seeing the potential and hoping Gaijin embraces it. I mean, what is really hindering them to make a quick rework of Enduring Confrontation, which is in a disastrous status? So, before I talk about helicopters, let's also comment a bit on Enduring Confrontation from the last weekend. Since the last time that I played it, nothing, and I mean nothing, has changed. Yes, it's a majestic 64 player battle, although on both teams there are just 5 players, the rest is filled up with bots. Bots that crash, bots that hunt each other down, bots that fly into the AAA zone of an enemy base and get killed, bots that are literally just gun food. And the frontline mechanic is nice, the map size is nice, the battle and duration, the battle time actually is really nice, and I think it has so much potential. But then you see this and just people leaving, and there is no coming back for players, so no join in progress, which should be overwritten for Enduring Confrontation. It would be really exciting to come in with a 4-player squad and just trying to turn the tide. I think this is really nice, but it's in such a disastrous status. I think it was also obviously advertised. It was advertised by Gaijin themselves on Facebook, on Twitter, social media in general, and the official War Thunder launcher. And then to see this disastrous status of this event, it's just a bit heartbreaking. It has so much potential. I had so much fun in the last years playing it, and then nothing came of it. Nothing was done to really work on it. It actually got worse. That's the thing that I want to say. So now let's talk about helicopters. Helicopters are actually now the 4th vehicle class in the game, after airplanes, after tanks, and also after ships, which are still in closed beta, but nevertheless. And the packs themselves are not that hugely expensive compared to the tier 6 premium tanks, so we have to keep this in mind, okay? And I think the concept is nice, but I personally was never really interested. However, when I see how they play out in battle, and I've played a little bit around with them, and yes, Gaijin has given some of them to me, so again, thumbs up to the part of Gaijin that actually works together with me. You guys are nice, but honestly, the helicopters themselves, they fly strange. The flight models and the instructors are still horrible. I mean, yes, it's much better than on the dev server, but still, it's horrible. And I think it's the first time that I talk about this in this Shepboard form, and I don't go into much greater detail about this topic. But it's like, either you go in early game and get sniped by tanks and SPA that just laugh at you, and then you have used up all your spawn points. Then the next thing is if you have ATGMs or you have not ATGMs. That's the question. So with ATGMs, you just sit at long range, a lot then on some tanks that can't do anything about it, especially on open field, and that's it, and you return to base. And Gaijin actually has seen how ineffective helicopters are, as well as the research and repair costs. They are just insane. I mean, I also tried the RRB version of those, and it's just horrible. It's really horrible. You try to do anything, and then you get sniped by another helicopter with an ATGM that you didn't hear coming, that you didn't see coming. I mean, yes, I agree. We must learn all how to fly helicopters. We all have to get used to it, like with tanks, like with aircraft, like with ships. But honestly, the first feel of it is disastrous. And again, this is a typical Gaijin move, and I'm not quite sure what comes of it. I'm not a supporter of helicopters, but I'm very interested, leaning back, how this will turn out. Meanwhile, I'm very much interested in sniping them down. So I think helicopters, they're just boring and I cannot recommend them. Now, if you are totally hyped about them and this is the one thing that you always wanted in the game, I made some predictions back in the days when there was the April Fool's event, like 1.5 years ago. Was it that April Fool's? I guess so. You know, I thought to myself, and I said this back in this video, why were people so amazed with this high tier stuff? Well, it was everything was fully upgraded, and it was just a new map, a new game mode, and it was April Fool's. And people were so hyped, and they recommend and they asked for it and asked for it and asked for it. So the current state that we have in War Thunder, with all this high tier nonsense, with this incredibly frustrating grind, incredibly expensive grind as well, in terms of Golden Eagles, Silver Lions, and time, is due to the fact that people were blinded from this April Fool's event. And yes, Gaijin has made a shit ton of money. Yes, they have made a shit ton out of money from the helicopter premium bundle sales, from the premium time, from anything in terms of high tier tank bundles and all the things that you can imagine where you can throw your money at Gaijin because of high tier. But in terms of enjoyment, in terms of balance, in terms of player retention, this is not the best thing done by Gaijin. But let's turn away from this. One final note is the spawn point system. It was actually changed because the stats apparently of the helicopters were so bad. They were just so ineffective in the battle, and people were complaining so much that Gaijin came around to change the spawn point system for tanks, which people asked for a change like for so long, and they're half the price of the tanks. And you might initially think, well, that's good, but what's the actual purpose of it? Yeah, there being more tanks for longer in the battle to be more targets for helicopters. They actually decreased the spawn point cost of helicopters by default. Yes, I have to be fair, they increased them also a bit if you mount ATGMs on it, and that's actually overall a good change. However, then Gaijin further came around to increase the cost for a fighter jet or a fighter plane in general by 50%, so that helicopters don't get shot down as well. So again, Gaijin is just cutting it in such a way that it is very nice meta for helicopters. But then again, if they just fly in the beginning of the match, get sniped down by a tank, ATGM or just an SPA, they're out of the battle, and they require so many spawn points that it actually turns the tide into the other direction for their team. If there are too many helicopters crashing or get shot down without doing anything, then your team lacks just simply the players. You don't have the spawn points to come back. And so very often I see games getting thrown, especially on the American teams, not so much on the Soviet side. So there is that. Then let's talk about something better. Let's talk about the thumbnails from Oryx, and the link to his fine little YouTube channel is in the video description down below. He makes the thumbnails very nice looking. However, when I first came across certain thumbnails that he wanted to show me as a concept, I was really, that looks nice. But then I was very surprised that I also could tell him a thing or two about making the actual pictures from a replay and in good quality, and how actually the basic picture looks good. And I showed him some of my early good thumbnails, like the 6 kills in 5 minutes with the G55S. I think this is one of the best looking thumbnails out there on YouTube, and it was just done in a very nice way. You might want to look up this video, was very interesting. But coming back, I think he sold his soul to me, and that's his problem, because he has to do a thumbnail for me every single day. So there is that. And so I think he does them in a very nice way. They look all very good, so give him a shout out. visit his YouTube channel, tell him that I sent you, not to Gulag, but just to his YouTube channel, and maybe you give him a subscription or two, if that's possible. So there is that. So again, thank you, Oryx, for your hard work and for enduring my pickiness. That then brings me also to a potential collaboration with another YouTuber. Now, I will not brag on about it, but I think I have here a winning concept. If this YouTuber agrees and if this works out, then I might have a very new concept for my ships that I want to make then reviews on. Once there is something interesting to show for ships. So if the Italian, the French and the British Navy find their introduction into War Thunder, and that will be really interesting. So I think this collaboration will be a unique, kind of shape, and I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm working behind the scenes on this. Let's see what's come of it. And now I think it's time for the questions from Last Duck Talks. So first question comes from Christopher Forster. Question: Napalm, could you review some of the lower tier premiums like the SMK or the GH 120mm? So first of all, in this patch now, the high tiers are obviously the focus of the patch, and I have to run them down. Maybe if I come around to do so, I'll do, but they are not the first priority, let's put it that way. Then Foxer Cockborough, I hope I pronounced that right. Hey, would you do a series of episodes about some maps, and for example where you shouldn't go for any specific map, etc. I bet you know some spots where you sorry about this, where you are in good position to play, like for mats for heavies and stuff. I don't know where to go when I'm in a fast tank and die. So in general, I think map guide is something that is interesting, but I did RRB guide on Norway, and that was not really the greatest success out there. However, I made a map guide on Port Novorossiysk, so if you like this one, you might want to look it up and watch it, and then tell me if you like it in that order. And I tried to do so, but they are not just the most watched videos. And again, the main focus currently is on the high tier stuff, if you like it or not. Gulok Lever asks further, would you think it would be a good idea to add a decapture award? Well, that's a tricky question, because you have to put in a lot of effort to actually stay in the cap and not get killed. And the decapture award is to drive through the cap, decap it, go into an ambush position and wait for an enemy tank that tries to retake that cap, so you can kill it and then cap, and that's the extra decapture award. I think it would be a bit exploitable as well. In general, it's not the worst idea out there, but I don't think that it will be a game changer. Then Blue Rose Gaming asks, what do you think Gaijin needs to do with planes in Tank RB? I ask this because I love War Thunder tanks, but when players make a kamikaze bomb or revenge or spawn bomb and ruin your game, it's so annoying. Well, I agree, and while this hasn't been such a massive problem as it once was, the funny thing is you still can crash sometimes a plane into a tank and get the kill for it, despite Gaijin claiming that they have programmed it in a way that this is not possible. So that's Gaijin for you. Honestly, this shouldn't be the case anymore. Then further, we have to look into arcade, where if I remember correctly, there is a minimal distance, or there should be a minimal distance for rockets to arm, or I made a suggestion about this, but this is a possibility, that the rockets have a minimal arming distance, point one. Second thing is that the bomb delay for planes that are in Tank RB should at minimum 5 seconds, so every tank has somewhat of a chance to roll out of the blast radius, or at least the deadly blast radius, and I think this would be a really great change. Interesting questions from Patka 3000. Question: is War Thunder, with all these recent expensive packs, becoming sort of elitist game only for players with deep wallet? And why should any player who will start to play War Thunder in a week or a month bother grinding vehicles past 4.7 or 5.7, considering how different gameplay style becomes through ranks from low tier fun to high tier mess? Well, first of all, nobody ever told you to play high tier. If you have fun at low tier, then why not just stick to it? You know, you can enjoy your spaded vehicles, you can enjoy your lineup, you can gather some more gameplay and optimize it, maybe even play with a friend or two. And I think in this respect, War Thunder is epic. When it comes to the packages being expensive, and I agree to this, but only becoming an elitist game, I don't think that it has to do anything with an elitist. There are players that are long-term players that are interested in getting everything, including me. Hello. But honestly, I think it's a cash grab from new players that just want to bypass the insane grind, and I think this is where War Thunder's overall progress is a bit strange, because when you look at World of Tanks and World of Warships, they have a 10 tier grinding step, so you know 10 tiers, that's the end. It might change obviously in the dying moments of World of Tanks and World of Warships, but for War Thunder the stuff is piled on top of something already expensive. And as I told in the beginning, if not for the War Thunder collaboration program or the content partner program, I wouldn't bother to have a look at high tier tanks as well. So nobody tells you to go into high tier, nobody tells you to nobody forces you to buy any of the packages. At the end, it's free to have this decision. Free $60 spending. Honestly, I see your point, and I think this is an unhealthy direction that Gaijin has gone. But I said this from the very beginning, that this is a bit ridiculous the way that it goes, and it began all with the introduction of the M60, the T10M and the Leopard, where it was already crazy. Another question from Alexander Borkhoff. What do you think about the BR system, and if it is hopeful Gaijin changed the 1.0 maximum BR up or down that constantly are ruining some tanks? I don't know what's going on, but I have 9.5 out of 10 games full 1.0 up tier every game. It is insane. Well, first of all, I think if Gaijin again is willing to do so, they can easily get away with reducing the maximum battle rating spread to 0.7, although they're claiming that internal tests have shown that this doesn't work. Yeah, with 3 players it doesn't work in an internal test. But I agree that a lot of tanks are ruined by their constant up tier. There are, due to how the matchmaker works, due to how the tech trees are set up, there are some black holes. Like in previous patches we had the battle rating 7.7 black hole, which was famous when the mouse was very often top tier, and it was beneficial for the mouse. But I think it's down to the will of Gaijin, and I think that's the key aspect of the entire discussion. A further aspect as an add-on to this question is the pure fact that I think we have insane compressions. Think about this. We have from battle rating 1.0 to effectively 7.7 tanks from the mid 1930s to 1945. So a 10, 12, 15 year period spread across battle ratings 1 to 7.7, and then the entire stuff from battle rating from partially 7.0 or 6.7 even to 10.0, which is not that much in contrast, is stretching over decades, and I think that is a massive compression issue, and I don't think that this will be solved anytime soon. And that already answers the questions from creator Chris, which asks, do you think that late German World War II tanks will be playable ever again? And the answer is, well, they are playable, they're just not enjoyable. Kenny Lin asks, question, I'm grinding the Russian air tech tree right now at rank 2. What aircraft is the easiest to grind for noobs? Aircraft in rank 2 and 3. And is MiG-3 worth it? Because I want something that is at least flyable with my T-54 lineup. So T54 lineup is, as you know, at a battle rating that you will face jets. So I'm not quite sure if you mean MiG-9. But nevertheless, I think the Yak series are really great, and you also have some versions of them with cannons that you can use in some sort of cannon cast. Yak 9T, Yak 9P with 37 millimeters. So I would recommend this line, and then also the attacker and bomber line. The Lavochkin line is nice in terms of flying, but not really the greatest in terms of CAS. So that's actually it for me today, and yeah, if you have a question for Duck Talks, feel free to ask it down in the comment section. You would help me out greatly if you begin your question with the word question double point, then asking a question and ending it with a question mark. It just helps out greatly to find the question among potentially hundreds of comments. And as I said, that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.